Doug Holtz-Eakin and Dan Greenhouse. Thanks to both of you for being here. If you can put that back up on the screen, although you both look lovely. Dan, I'll ask you about this first because I know that you hop right off of a trade desk to come over here and you're watching these markets intimately. Up 500 points, and this market seems to be moving with this interview that Bessent is doing with our own Larry Kudlow. So where do the markets see this whole thing going next?
There's still a lot of uncertainty right now, and it gets back to the tariffs being announced in February to take effect in March, now being delayed until April. I think there was an assumption that a lot of these tariffs would be delayed until April. That's when the reciprocal tariff deadline is going to be. So we're sort of now grouping them all together. But there's a lot of uncertainty about when these tariffs are going to take effect, on what goods,
are they
for how long.
Useful tool?
Well, listen, I think they are. If you were the administration and you were trying to achieve the outcomes that they are trying to achieve, reduced fentanyl, lower border crossings, these are a tool in the arsenal to achieve those ends. So yes, I think they are.
And that is what we hear from this administration. Doug, I know that you've been on this program sharing another side of this story. Is it fair to say you're anti-tariffs? You don't think that this is an effective way to go about this?
I think there are several different kinds of tariffs, but in the end, we've got taxes on American consumers and businesses. Those taxes are substantial. I think people underappreciate that this round, taken at face value, would be roughly 4 times larger than anything he did in his first presidency. The impacts would be substantial. Again, if you implement these as taken at face value, you're going to add a percentage point to the PCE inflation. You're going to add subtract that up to a percentage point from economic growth. And those are not things that the American people want.
You know, but on that point, the president, and even on his Tuesday night address, suggested that there could be, a hit to the consumer initially.
Sure.
But once we get over that, this administration, you heard Caroline Leavitt say this yesterday from the briefing room, Dan, the hope would be that it would force more to be made here in America, and more of these businesses, because of the tariffs, would bring that business to American soil.
I mean, listen, there's a great deal of uncertainty. To Doug's point, there's uncertainty about how quickly and how fast some of these supply lines that have been built up over decades can be reoriented back to the United States. In the case of car parts, for instance, it's well known. Some of these parts go back and forth across the border multiple times before ultimate final assembly. But again, I think the main point is, if you're the administration and you view decades of poor economic policy making resulting in the hollowing out of the middle class, et cetera, this is a tool in that arsenal to try to reverse that trend.
That's a really interesting perspective. I want to finish off with this because, as I mentioned, Bessent does seem to be moving some markets right now. He just said this moments ago about this being an ongoing and open conversation, tariffs.
We have to be open to the idea. If you want to be a numbskull like Justin Trudeau and say, oh, we're going to do this, then tariffs are going to go up. I am happy to have a discussion with our foreign counterparts that says that here's what we think you were doing.
Man, oh man, Doug, is this getting interesting? Final thought from you.
Well, I just think it's hard to understand what the end point is. Is the end point fentanyl, border crossings? Is the end point reorienting domestic production lines? Is the end point a new USMCA? The president needs to lay out a goal and lay out some guidance to the business community about how he's going to get to that goal. Right now, it's just random tariffs at random times, and you can't do any planning that way.
Well, I said final thought. Dan's over here mouthing all of the above.
I feel like it could be all of the above.
Okay. I think you had the last word, Dan. I think to Dan's point, all the above, though, Doug. I mean, this is what you've heard from the administration, that it is about fentanyl, and it is about bringing manufacturing back to the United States. It is about our borders, but we're going to see how they're going to.
Long?
These are the questions, and that's why I think you just heard Bessent say this is an open conversation, because we don't have defined lines right now, and that's what we're all sort of waiting on. Markets are waiting on as well. I appreciate the discussion. Thank you very much. Dan, Doug, thanks. John?